Welcome back to our integumentary system. In this video, we are going to cover skin accessory structures. And so let's get started first with the hair and the nails, the two most obvious skin accessory structures. What you should know from this section, you should be able to distinguish between three different types of hairs, the history of the hair and its follicle, some of the theories of the purposes that hair serves and the various kinds of hair that serve those purposes, and then also describe the structure and the function of the nails. So let's get started. So hair and nails. With that, hair, nails, and cutaneous glands, we're going to call those accessory organs to the skin. So accessory appendages even to the skin. So your hair and your nails are going to be composed mostly of dead keratinized cells. Pliable soft keratin is going to make up the stratum corneum of the skin. The compact hard keratin makes up the hair and the nails. And so that's where you're going to find your tougher and your more compact. And the reason why is because there's going to be lots of disulfide bridges between the keratin molecules. This is something that you learned in your Bio 1111 in your protein folding structures, your disulfide bridges. So the hair is also going to be called a pilus, okay? Plural would be pili. They are going to be slender filaments of keratinized cells. They grow out of a tube in the skin called the hair follicle. And so the hair is going to cover most of your body, doesn't cover the palms, the soles, the lateral surfaces and the distal segments of the fingers and the toes, the lips, nipples, parts of the genitals. And so your limbs and your trunk are going to have about 55 to 70 hairs per square centimeter. So pull out your ruler and see what a square centimeter looks like so you can get an idea what that looks like. So your face is going to have about 10 times as many of that. And so on a person's scalp, there's about 100,000 hairs on average. And so the differences between the hairiness between some individuals versus other individuals, that can due to the differences in the texture and also the pigment of the hairs. So there's three main types of hairs: downy hair, which is lanugo, vellus hair, and terminal hair. So the downy hair, that's going to be your fine, unpigmented hair. That's where the fetus is going to have it all over their face. In the last 3 months of development, you may find that your infant is born with a lot of that downy hair still on their forehead, maybe covering up their face. The vellus hair. Vellus hair is going to be fine, pale. It will replace the lanugo by the time of birth, for the most part. There's 2/3 of the hair of women are going to be vellus hair, 1/10 of the hair of men, all of the hair of children, except for the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and the scalp. So terminal hair. Terminal hair is just like it says, terminal in the end. It's going to be longer, coarser, heavily pigmented. It's going to be that hair in your eyebrows, your eyelashes, the scalp. It's going to form in the axillary and the pubic area after puberty. Your male facial hair, sometimes the hair on the trunk of the limbs also. Let's talk about the structure of the hair and its follicle. So the shaft is the portion that you are most familiar with. It is the part that is above the surface of the skin. The root is going to be below the skin surface. So that root itself is going to extend into the epidermis and go past the epidermis into the dermis. The part that goes into the dermis is going to be the bulb, and the bulb is dilated. So when we say dilated, what we're talking about is the bottom of the bulb has a larger diameter than the top of the bulb. Just think about an upside down light bulb. So that bulb grows around that dermal papilla, and the bud of that vascular connective tissue is going to provide the nutrients that is needed for the hair to grow. And so when we talk about the matrix is the part that is mitotically dividing. It's immediately above the papilla. It's going to grow the center for the hair. And the hair itself has up to 3 layers. It's got the medulla. The medulla is the core of loosely arranged cells and air spaces. It has the cortex. The cortex is going to be the bulk of the hair. That is the layers of elongated cells. Finally, the cuticle. The cuticle is the outermost region. It's going to consist of multiple layers of very thin, scaly cells that are going to overlap each other like roof shingles, if you can imagine. So let's go ahead and look at our nice little video. Excuse me, a lot of nice little pictures. And so here is the actual microscopic view of the hair. Here is the picture of it, the diagram that they drew. And so when you see here, when we talk about the bulb is this bottom portion here. Remember, I told you it's like an upside down light bulb. So if you were to see it here, this is the bulb section. This is your bulb section. So when we say it's dilated, notice this is actually wider in diameter than the rest of the shaft. So you have your dermal papilla. The dermal papilla extend within that bulb. At the tip of it, you're going to find the matrix. Okay. You can see here the cortex is along the outer part, with that medulla being on the inner part. And then let's see, we have on the outside epithelial root sheath, on the outer side of that, connective tissue around the root sheath. That's a hard word to say, yeah. So let's look here on this side. I want to bring some attention to some of the other accessories we're going to talk about. Sebaceous glands. As you can see, you have sebaceous glands that are associated with that hair follicle. You also have these muscles here. These are the erector pili muscles. And those erector pili muscles are literally what makes your hair stand on end. So if you think about when you get cold, how your hair will stand on end, or you get scared, your hair will stand on end. Those erector pili muscles contracting every single hair at every single hair follicle is responsible for that. So I don't want to give all that good stuff away. We also have some apocrine sweat glands here. If you recall from previous videos, apocrine is only going to give away a piece. A piece is going to shed off in the apocrine sweat glands. You also have your blood vessels associated with each of those hair follicles. Those are going to provide the nutrients of that. Okay, so we have 2 principal layers of that follicle. You got that epithelial root sheath and the connective tissue root sheath. That's what I was showing you here, the epithelial root sheath and the connective tissue root sheath. Got to say it slow so I can get it out. All righty, the epithelial root sheath. Those are going to be the extensions of the epidermis, lying adjacent right next to that hair root. It's going to get wider, widens at the deep end into the bulge, and it's going to be the source of the stem cells for that follicular growth. Then you have your connective tissue root sheath. That's going to be derived in the dermis area. So that helps you, epithelial, epidermis, right? Well, because of the E's. So with that, the connective tissue is going to derive from the dermis, but it's going to be a little bit denser, and it's going to surround the epithelial root sheath. So other associations you're going to find are those nerve fibers. Sensory nerve fibers are going to entwine each of the follicles and respond to the hair movements. So that's why if you were to take your hand and just ever so slightly not touch the skin, but just rub it across the hairs of your arms or of your legs, your sensory nerve fibers are feeling each of those hairs moving. The erector pili muscle, I was telling you on the other slide, that's going to be a bundle of smooth muscles that are attached. Now note, I'm telling you, they are smooth muscles. They are not skeletal muscles in terms of they are not voluntary. So they're going to attach the follicle to that dermis. And that's what I told you, they make that hair stand on end. We can give that a name of piloerection. So the hair texture, and that's the hair texture and the color are going to be due to the pigment granules that are in the cells of the cortex. Those individuals with black and brown hair, they're going to be rich in eumelanin. So we got that word from a previous PowerPoint we did, eu meaning true. And those with red hair, they're going to have a high concentration of pheomelanin. Those with blonde hair, they're going to have intermediate amounts of pheomelanin and very little of the eumelanin. Gray and white hair are going to have little or no melanin. Okay, and there's going to be also air that is present within the medulla. The texture is going to be related to actual cross-sectional shapes of the hair. So straight hair is going to have round cross-sectional shaping. Wavy hair is going to have more of an oval shaping, and curly hair is going to have relatively flat cross-sectional shaping. So if you look here, let's go ahead and look at the figure so we can pull it all together. So your blonde hair, just looking at your blonde hair here, this is the medulla of the blonde hair, has a lot more pheomelanin and different levels of pheomelanin, very little eumelanin. If you look at your black, this is blonde straight hair, by the way, black straight hair, you can see it has lots of eumelanin in it. Red wavy hair. The red wavy hair is going to have pheomelanin with some of the eumelanin in it. And so when you look at this last one, you can see gray wavy hair is going to have lots of air spacing within that medulla, and neither of the melanins. So let's talk about what we really want to know about, and that is hair growth and hair loss. So your hair follicles are actually going to go through developmental stages called a hair cycle. You have three main developmental stages. You got anagen, catagen, and telogen. So the anagen is a growth stage that lasts about 6 to 8 years. 90% of the scalp follicles at any time are in this stage, okay? At this stage, you have stem cells that are multiplying. You have root sheath cells that are above the papilla. They're going to form the hair cells of the matrix. The hair cells make keratin, and they die as they're pushed upwards, i.e. your hair is growing. During the catagen phase is a degeneration stage. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks. During that time, mitotic division in the hair matrix is going to stop. The follicles are going to shrink, and the hair is going to lose anchorage. So at this point, you end up with your hair falling out. So don't freak out. You lose hairs. You naturally lose hairs, so it's okay. So you're going to find that the base of the hair keratinizes into a hard knot called a club hair. And that club hair, when you brush your hair and you are losing hair, that is what you're pulling out. Club hair, hair that it is in its catagen phase. The telogen phase of the hair follicle. The telogen phase is a resting stage, and that takes about between 1 and 3 months. So everybody loses about 50 to 100 hairs daily. So just relax. It's all okay. Your hair growth, when your hair is in that growth phase, the anagen phase, it is going to grow about 1 millimeter per every 3 days. And that's until your 40s. After that, things don't go as well as you would like. So in those effects of aging, you're going to get a higher percent of follicles that are in the catagen and the telogen phases. So, which means you're going to get a lot more of the resting stages. And so your follicles are going to shrink. They're going to produce more wispy vellus hairs. And so when we talk about hair thinning, that's really what they're talking about. You also could undergo alopecia. Alopecia, or as I just said, that thinning of the hair, or even baldness. And so when we talk about pattern baldness is androgenic alopecia. Androgenic is having to do with hormones, okay, androgens. That hair loss is going to be uneven rather than uniformly thinning out. And so that can be accommodationally caused by inheritance patterns, polygenic inheritance patterns. It could be a cause of hormones. It could be environmental cause, okay? About 50 to 80% of it is hereditary. So last but not least, hirsutism. That is when you have excessive hairiness in areas that are not usually hairy. So what is the function of the hair anyway? The purpose of the hair? Well, it really depends on the body region of the hair and the type of the hair. And so hair receptors, the purpose of hair receptors is to alert us of parasites crawling on your skin. You know that feeling where you just have something just touching you, have a fly on your arm and you're just like, oh, it's driving you crazy. So it alerts us of parasites on the skin. The hair on the trunk and the limbs is mostly going to be vestigial, meaning vestigial, you may not have come into this term. It means that it used to have a function in our common ancestors, but that functionality has, quote, pretty much ceased in our function. And so your scalp hair is going to help you retain heat on your head, also protects you from the sun. We covered that in the previous set of slides. Your pubic and axillary hair, that's going to, number one, signify sexual maturity. Okay, you got to remember, we're all running around without clothes. I mean, not me, not everybody now, hopefully not, but I'm talking about our ancestors. We're all running around without clothes and looking for mates and trying to stay alive. So this right here is going to signify that sexual maturity. It's also going to aid in the transmission of sexual sense. So it's a come hither is what it is. All righty. So guard hairs. Your hairs can also serve as guard hairs to basically protect you. Protect your insides from things getting in. You have hairs in your nostrils. You got hairs in your ear canals. That helps to protect from external agents getting access to your internal body. Now, with pubic hairs, you can also say for the female, the pubic hair could also serve as guard hairs to protect the vagina from external agents getting access to the vagina. Last but not least, we have some eyelashes and eyebrows. They are going to enhance facial expression and nonverbal communication. We could also say that they serve as guard hairs to protect your eyes from anything falling in your eyes too. So let's go on to the fingernails. Your fingernails and toenails, they are going to be clear, hard derivatives of the stratum corneum. it's important that you know what layer they come from, that stratum corneum. They're composed of thin, dead cells that are going to be packed with hard keratin. The function of them: to improve your grooming, to pick apart food, other manipulations, provide counterforce to enhance sensitivity of those fleshy fingertips, okay? So if we think about grooming, when we're trying to comb our hair, sometimes if you think about it, nails are involved. If you think about our ancestors and trying to take care of your family members, your fingernails help to take parasites off of them and to pick them out of their hair. So, picking apart food, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Any other manipulations? Think about what you do with your fingernails. Well, that's what they were made for. So, let's talk about the structure of the nails. You have your nail plate. That's going to be the hard part of the nail. That's also going to include that overhanging that goes beyond the fleshy pad of your fingertip. And so that is called the free edge. That nail body is the visible attached part, and the nail root is going to be under the overlying skin. Those surrounding surfaces, the surrounding skin rises at the nail fold, and you're going to see it separate that margin of that nail plate by the nail groove. Oh my gosh, sounds like we said a lot. What do you say we move on to the picture, okay? Stick with me. Actually, let's go ahead and go here and then we'll go back. So if you recall, let's grab our vocabulary. We got the plate, free edge, the body, the root, the fold, and the groove. Let's go find it in the picture. So your free edge, just like I said, that's the best part of it. You're going to find your nail body. That's the bulk of your nail that you're used to. Okay. The nail groove is going to be where that insertion is, and the nail fold is beyond that, within the fleshy pad of the skin. Then you have your lunula. The lunula, it's like a moon. So if that helps you remember the lunula, this is where the growth takes place. Ooh, I'm going beyond. I got to talk about the other slide first. All right, hold on to all that good stuff. We'll come back. All righty, so in that structure of that nail bed, so the nail bed is going to be the skin underlying the nail plate, okay? Then from here, you have something, this is called a hyponychium. That is going to be the epidermis of the nail bed, okay? Think hypo meaning below. You got your matrix. That is the zone at which growth takes place at the proximal end of the nail. So I know this was a little bit difficult for some students, proximal versus distal, when you are talking about when you're talking about your arms and your legs. Proximal is closest to the midline of your body when you're talking about your limbs. Distal is the furthest away from the midline of your body. So the growth zone at the proximal end of the nail, that's where you find your lunula. So let's go ahead and look. Free edge is at the distal end. The lunula is at the proximal end. Then you also have your cuticle. The cuticle is eponychium. That's the narrow zone of the dead skin that is going to overhang on that proximal end. It's that part right by your cuticle, this dead skin right here, that sometimes gets crusty, and you actually have to cut it. You gotta be careful though. Don't cut it too far back. You just want to take care of the dead skin. So sometimes an exfoliating type of cream can help with that too. So with that, your appearance of your nails, it can actually be really good in medical diagnosis. Okay, so if you have swollen, clubbed fingernails, fingertips, excuse me, that is going to indicate an oxygen deficiency. You can also see dietary deficiencies on how the actual nail itself looks, because if you have ridges, if you have cuts down the middle. A good nail technician should be versed in this and be able to tell you, oh, you're deficient in this vitamin, you're deficient in this vitamin. So let's go back to our pretty picture. We didn't look at our side view. So as you can see, if we did a cross section, we have our bone, that is our finger bone that is here. From here, you got your nail matrix, that is the area of growth. Okay, the fold is what folds up on top. The eponychium, that is this area of the growth that takes place. Then your nail root is going to extend up under the nail fold, okay? And then your nail plate is inclusive of your nail root that extends under your nail fold. It's inclusive of the nail body and the free edge. So all of these make up your nail plate. The nail bed is where that nail plate sits up. And if you ever ripped your nail off and you ripped off your whole nail plate and the only thing you have left exposed is the nail bed, that is some of the most painful, oh my gosh. So yeah, so definitely that nail plate is a protection. All right, so let's move on. How about the cutaneous glands? Let's get into some more of those skin accessory glands. So in the cutaneous glands, these are the things that you should expect to learn. To be able to name 2 types of sweat glands and describe the structure and the function of each. You should be able to describe the location, the structure, and the function of your sebaceous and your ceremunous glands, those that produce ceramine. You should be able to discuss the difference between breast and mammary glands and explain their functions. All right, so first, let's go with the sweat glands. The sweat glands, you got 2 different types, apocrine sweat glands and eccrine sweat glands. So your apocrine sweat glands are going to be found in your groin, anal region, axillary, areola, and in the men, you're going to find it in the beards. You're going to find that the ducts are going to lead to those nearby hair follicles. And when sweat is produced, it's going to produce there, and it's going to be milky and contain fatty acids. So they become active at puberty. They're going to respond to stress and sexual stimulation. And so it's believed that sex pheromones are going to be chemicals that influence the behavior of others. And so it is thought that humans do have that. With that, they're yet to be identified completely. So we do know about pheromones in other animals and such, but that's why it's to be believed. Then a disagreeable body odor is also going to be produced by the apocrine sweat glands. They're usually because somebody is not cleaning themselves properly. You're getting a buildup of bacteria. The odor is actually going to come from that bacteria odor being released. So bronchidrosis. All right, so let's go into eccrine sweat glands, sometimes called merocrine sweat glands. So they are going to be the most numerous. You have about 3 to 4 million of them in the adult skin, especially on the palms and the soles of the feet and the forehead. So if you think about it, if you got sweaty palms and sweaty feet, it's because there are 3 to 4 million in the adult skin. You have a lot of merocrine sweat glands. And so they're going to be tubular glands. They produce more of a watery perspiration versus, if you recall, in the apocrine, that's going to produce more of a milky fatty acid contained type of perspiration. So they're going to be simple tubular glands. that help the body to cool itself off. And that's the purpose of the watery perspiration. As you perspire, then that water that is on the outside of your body is going to evaporate. When it evaporates, it pulls heat energy off of your body, thereby cooling your body. So the cells that are going to be involved in these, the myoepithelial cells, they're found in both the apocrine and the eccrine glands. What they're going to do is those cells are going to contract in response to sympathetic nervous system signals. And when those cells contract, it's going to squeeze perspiration up the sweat gland duct, or up the duct of the sweat gland. So here we go. We have ourselves an apocrine gland and an eccrine gland. So when you see here, this apocrine gland is going to be attached, and you can see where it will release out of that hair follicular duct. It's kind of a small picture. I'd probably refer more towards your histology pictures for that awesome one. And so these are going to be the secretory cells, and the space inside is the lumen. The lumen is always a space. That's what you can really know what it is. So then let's look at the eccrine. The eccrine is going to have your secretory cells. It has a smaller lumen, as you can see, yes. And then you can actually see how it is lined. You can see the lining of those myoepithelial cells. This is your example here. Last but not least, sebaceous glands. The sebaceous glands are going to be attached to that hair follicle also, and they are going to release sebum, is what they are. So you can see here is the gland, and here is the hair follicle. So your sweat production and composition, that's what we really want to know. What's in it? Well, it's actually 99% water. Has a pH range between 4 to 6, so slightly on the, well, 6 is slightly on the acidic, 4 is acidic. And the purpose of that acidic nature is to inhibit bacterial growth, because you think you stink now. Could you imagine if your pH was not acidic and it really let bacteria grow? All righty. So it's going to actually start out as protein-free filtrate from that blood plasma that is produced by the deep secretory portion of the gland, so the deepest part of the gland. You're going to get some sodium chloride reabsorption by the duct. You're going to get other sodium chloride parts and smaller solutes like potassium, urea, lactic acid, ammonia. Those are going to remain in the sweat, okay? So I'm going to be honest. I come home from a good workout, and my dogs love to try to kiss my face. And here I think it was because they missed me. No, they're digging this. So don't worry, I don't usually let my dogs kiss all over my face, but sometimes it catches me off guard. So you can also get drugs that are excreted in the sweat too. So the different types of perspiration. And so you have insensible perspiration and diaphoresis. So insensible perspiration is usually not noticed. It doesn't produce visible wetness of the skin. We lose about 500 milliliters of liquid per day via insensible perspiration. Diaphoresis, on the other hand, is obviously sweating with the wetness of the skin, usually in response to heat, usually in response to exercise, but it could also be in response to circulatory shock. So that's very important to be able to recognize if somebody is not in the heat, they haven't been exercising, but they are sweating profusely. this could be a danger indication. Okay, so about 1 liter or more is lost via sweat per hour during exercise. And so those liquids do need to be replenished. A lot of times people think, oh, I need to drink lots of water. Actually, you need to be replenishing, yes, your water, but your electrolytes, because drinking more the amount of water, that's actually going to throw off your body electrolyte balance. Because as I told you here, you're going to lose potassium, you're going to lose sodium chloride and some other solutes from the skin. So you definitely have to replenish if you are exercising more than up to an hour or more, even so. So cutaneous transpiration. What's this word transpiration? Transpiration, it's basically water loss from the skin, but it's not due to sweating. So when we use the term perspiration, we are talking about sweating from the skin. Transpiration is when water is diffusing between keratinocytes and evaporates from the skin surface. So let's move this party on. Let's go to sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands, think about oily secretions, sebum. And so if you have very oily skin, that's not coming from sweat, that's coming from your sebaceous glands. And so those glands are going to be shaped like a flask. They're going to have shorter duct openings, and that opens into the hair follicles. And so that's why sometimes if you get a clogged hair follicle, sometimes you'll get a pimple. It's usually because those sebaceous glands are not allowed to release that oily secretion of sebum. Then you get a buildup of bacterial growth, and then you have yourself a nice little juicy whitehead. All righty. So these are holocrine type of glands. So backing it up just a little bit, I mentioned it earlier in the PowerPoint, but apocrine type of glands release a piece of the gland into its excretion, a piece. Holocrine glands release the whole piece, release all of that cell into the secretion. Okay, so with the sebaceous glands, they're also going to keep the skin and the hair from becoming too dry and brittle and cracked. So it's a protection mechanism. Ceruminous glands, they are going to be modified apocrine glands. They're usually only found in the external ear canal. Okay, it produces cerumen, and cerumen is earwax. The purpose of earwax is protection. And so the shape of them, they're coiled, they're simple tubular glands. They produce yellow, waxy secretions and also dead epithelial cells. It helps to keep those eardrums pliable. It helps to waterproof the canal. It will kill bacteria and also keep bacteria and other foreign agents from entering in to the auditory canal. And so between that and the guard hairs, that's what keeps foreign agents out. Mammary glands. Your mammary glands are milk-producing glands. They develop in the female during pregnancy and in lactation. They are modified apocrine sweat glands is what they are. And so they are going to release rich secretions through the ducts at the opening of the nipple. And so this term mammary ridges or milk lines, they're going to be basically 2 rows of mammary glands in most mammals, not animals, mammals, okay? So specifically primates only keep 2 of them, but there are a few people who still have the line of nipples. So look at your dog. Even the male dogs still have the line of nipples, but they have, starting from the top, On the right and the left, nipple, and then a little lower, lip nipple, and then a little lower nipple, okay? Now, some humans still might retain a nipple or two beyond what they're supposed to. And if you don't, below your nipples, and this is really a lot for the guys, below your nipples, do you have an interesting, probably maybe about 3 inches below, circular tufts of hair? Just saying. All righty. Well, I hope you enjoyed that last bit of information. I know everybody's running to the mirror right now. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next PowerPoint.